Voices of Today presents The Sick King in Bokhara by Matthew Arnold, featuring Alan Weyman as Hussein, Marty Krz as the Vizier, John Burlinson as the King.
O most just Vizier, send away the cloth merchants, and let them be them and their dues this day. The king is ill at ease, and calls for thee.
O merchants, tarry yet a day here in Bokhara. But at noon tomorrow come, and ye shall pay each 40th web of cloth to me, as the law is, and go your way. O Hussein, lead me to the king, thou teller of sweet tales, thine own Ferdousis and the others lead. How is it with my lord?
Alone, ever since prayer time, he doth wait, O Vizier, without lying down, in the great window of the gate, looking into the Registan, where through the sellers' booths the slaves are this way bringing the dead man. O Vizier, here is the king's door.
O Vizier, I may bury him.
O king, thou know'st I have been sick these many days, and heard no thing, for Allah shut my ears and mine. Not even what thou dost, O king, wherefore, that I may counsel thee, let Hussein, if thou wilt, make haste, to speak in order what hath chanced.
O Vizier, be it as thou sayest.
3 days since, at the time of prayer, a certain mullah, with his robe all rent and dust upon his hair, watched my lord's coming forth, and pushed the golden mace-bearers aside, and fell at the king's feet, and cried, "Justice, O king, and on myself! On this great sinner who did break the law, and by the law must die. Vengeance, O king!" But the king spake, "What fool is this that hurts our ears with folly? Or what drunken slave? My guards, what? Prick him with your spears. Prick me the fellow from the path." As the king said, so was it done, and to the mosque my lord passed on. But on the morrow, when the king went forth again, the holy book carried before him as is right, and through the square his path he took. My man comes running, flecked with blood from yesterday, and falling down cries out most earnestly, "O king, my lord, O king, do right, I pray." How canst thou, ere thou hear, discern if I speak folly? But a king, whether a thing be great or small, like Allah, hears and judges all. Wherefore hear thou. Thou know'st how fierce in these last days the sun hath burned, that the green water in the tanks is to a putrid puddle turned, and the canal that from the stream of Samarkand is brought this way wastes and runs thinner every day. Now I at nightfall had gone forth alone, and in a darksome place under some mulberry trees I found a little pool, and in short space with all the water that was there I filled my pitcher, and stole home unseen, and having drink to spare, I hid the can behind the door, and went up on the roof to sleep. But in the night, which was with wind and burning dust, again I creep down, having fever, for a drink. Now meanwhile had my brethren found the water pitcher, where it stood behind the door upon the ground, and called my mother. And they all, as they were thirsty, and the night most sultry, drained the pitcher there, that they sat with it in my sight, their lips still wet, when I came down. Now mark, I being fevered, sick, most unblessed also, at that sight brake forth and cursed them. Dost thou hear? One was my mother. Now do right. But my lord mused a space, and said, Send him away, sirs, and make on. It is some madman, the king said. As the king bade, so was it done. The morrow, at the selfsame hour, in the king's path, behold the man not kneeling, sternly fixed. He stood right opposite, and thus began, frowning grim down. Thou wicked king, most deaf where thou shouldst most give ear. What, must I howl in the next world, because thou wilt not listen here? What, wilt thou pray and get thee grace, and all grace shall to me be grudged? Nay, but I swear, from this thy path I will not stir till I be judged. Then they who stood about the king drew close together and conferred, till that the king stood forth and said, Before the priests thou shalt be heard. But when the ulemas were met, and the thing heard, they doubted not, but sentenced him, as the law is, to die by stoning on the spot. Now the king charged us secretly, Stoned must he be, the law stands so. Yet if he seek to fly, give way. Hinder him not, but let him go. So saying, the king took a stone, and cast it softly. But the man, with a great joy upon his face, kneeled down, and cried not, neither ran. So they, whose lot it was, cast stones, that they flew thick and bruised him sore. But he praised Allah with loud voice, and remained kneeling as before. My lord had covered up his face, but when one told him, He is dead, turning him quickly to go in, Bring thou to me his corpse, he said. And truly, while I speak, O king, I hear the bearers on the stair. Wilt thou they straightway bring him in? Oh, enter, ye who tarry there.
O king, in this I praise thee not. Now must I call thy grief not wise. Is he thy friend, or of thy blood, to find such favour in thine eyes? Nay, were he thine own mother's son, still thou art king, and the law stands. It were not meet the balance swerved, the sword were broken in thy hands. But being nothing as he is, why for no cause make sad thy face? Lo, I am old, 3 kings ere thee have I seen reigning in this place. But who through all this length of time could bear the burden of his years, if he for strangers pained his heart not less than those who merit tears? Fathers we must have, wife and child, and grievous is the grief for these. This pain alone, which must be borne, makes the head white and bows the knees. But other loads than this his own one man is not well made to bear. Besides, to each are his own friends, to mourn with him and show him care. Look, this is but one single place, though it be great. All the earth round, if a man bear to have it so, things which might vex him shall be found. Upon the Russian frontier, where the watchers of two armies stand, near one another many a man, seeking a prey unto his hand, hath snatched a little fair-haired slave. They snatch also towards Merveille the shear-dogs who pasture sheep, and up from thence to Organger. And these all, labouring for a lord, eat not the fruit of their own hands, which is the heaviest of all plagues to that man's mind who understands. The Kafirs also, whom God curse, vex one another night and day. There are the lepers and all sick, there are the poor who faint alway. All these have sorrow and keep still, whilst other men make cheer and sing. Wilt thou have pity on all these? No, nor on this dead dog, O king.
O Vizier, thou art old, I young. Clear in these things I cannot see. My head is burning, and a heat is in my skin which angers me. But hear ye this, ye sons of men. They that bear rule and are obeyed, unto a rule more strong than theirs, are in their turn obedient made. In vain, therefore, with wistful eyes gazing up hither, the poor man who loiters by the high-heaped booths below there in the Registan, says, Happy he who lodges there, with silken raiment, store of rice, and for this drought all kinds of fruits, grape syrup, squares of coloured ice, with cherries served in drifts of snow. In vain hath a king power to build houses, arcades, enamelled mosques, and to make orchard closes, filled with curious fruit trees brought from far, with cisterns for the winter rain, and in the desert spacious inns in divers places, if that pain is not more lightened which he feels, if his will be not satisfied, and that it be not from all time the law is planted to abide. Thou wast a sinner, thou poor man, thou wast athirst, and didst not see that though we take what we desire, we must not snatch it eagerly. And I have meat and drink at will, and rooms of treasures not a few. But I am sick, nor heed I these, and what I would I cannot do. Even the great honour which I have when I am dead will soon grow still. So have I neither joy nor fame. But what I can do, that I will. I have a fretted brickwork tomb upon a hill on the right hand, hard by a close of apricots upon the road of Samarcand. Thither, O Vizier, will I bear this man my pity could not save, and, plucking up the marble flags, there lay his body in my grave. Bring water, nard, and linen rolls. Wash off all blood, set smooth each limb. Then say, he was not wholly vile, because a king shall bury him.
We hope that you have enjoyed this production of The Sick King in Bokhara by Matthew Arnold, presented by Voices of Today, featuring Alan Weyman as Hussein, Marty Krz as the Vizier, and John Burlinson as the King. This recording may be freely downloaded and distributed, as long as Voices of Today is credited as the author. It may not be used for commercial purposes or distributed in an edited or remixed form. For further information about Voices of Today, or to explore its catalogue, please visit voicesoftoday.org. Thank you for listening.